I've had D&D and TTRPG campaigns that have fizzled out, before the parties even got out of the starting village. I've built entire worlds that got played in just once. Has this happened to you? Because it sucks. Every time. But now I know what to do to make sure it never happens again. It's all about our skill as storytellers. How can we keep our players glued to the table for the duration of the whole campaign? How can we craft such good stories that everyone needs to find out how it ends? I've got a 3-part storytelling blueprint that can be used for published adventures as well as our homebrew creations. My name's Rich and this is Renegade Rolls. Some quick fire facts about TTRPGs and storytelling, which made all the difference for me when I stopped and actually thought about them. Number 1. Whatever the mechanics of your system, the things which your players will remember for the longest time will be the stories that you tell together. Number 2. TTRPGs are story machines. They give us so many tools to tell grandiose epic tales or small-scale, deeply personal stories. Number 3. TTRPGs are not novels. They're not movies, they're not comics or computer games. And this is so important to remember because of number 4. Unless you're running an actual play table that's streaming online, the audience for your game is tiny. You're telling stories that only a few people will ever hear. There are 2 ways to respond to that last point. Either, all that effort that hardly anyone will ever see. None of it matters, I'm going to do nothing. Or, wow, I can make something so unique and so personal, it doesn't matter as long as these 5 people around my table like it, and I've got so many ideas. I'm very much hoping that you are in the latter camp. Part 1 of the blueprint. The characters and the players controlling them must be motivated to do stuff in the world. Often players will come to the table with characters who are intrinsically motivated. They've got goals, they've got ambitions, they want to do stuff in the world. Other times, characters will be happy with life as it is. This can happen even if your players presented you with 10 pages of backstory. If you come across a character that seems comfortable with their world, the best thing you can do, and often the thing that the player actually wants you to do, is break it. Maybe not literally break the entire planet, just their own part of the world and their stability within it, so they have an excuse to go adventuring. Now normally I like to make my videos entirely self-contained, so you get a standalone nugget of game mastery goodness, but I'm making an exception today. There is a fantastic video by Ginny D, which came out a few days before I recorded this one, all about character agency and encouraging them to have their own goals, rather than just responding to what the baddies do. If you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend it. The book the video discusses is The Game Master's Handbook of Proactive Roleplaying by Jonah and Tristan Fishel. My big takeaway is that every player character should have their own specific goals for the short, medium and long term. These can apply even if you're running a pre-written module, though as GM you will need to say if a character's goal is something that's beyond the scope of the campaign. I want to ascend to godhood, defeating AO and take my rightful place at the head of the pantheon of Toril. Sir, this is the Lost Mine of Phandelver for 1st to 4th level characters. You might find these motivated characters all push in different directions. If it's early in the campaign, they might not have any reasons to stick together. An element of Daggerheart which I love and intend to steal for every TTRPG that I play from now on is its system of creating connections between the player characters. Some of them are fun and whimsical, others sound like things that a therapist might ask, but all of them give characters reasons to care about each other. Giving characters motivation is relatively easy. Giving players motivation can be much harder. We as game masters need to find out what makes their eyes light up and what gets them excited to play. How do we do that? Well, we ask them, of course. Everything in life is better when you communicate. We do this at session 0. You are having one, right? Even if you've been playing with these folk for years? Yeah? Motivations do change over time, so check in with your players regularly. Has real life become tough and they just want to hang out and smash some goblins? Cool, let's do a dungeon crawl. Are your players super motivated to follow a story thread? Great, even better. Hopefully you feel comfortable adjusting your games to follow the fun. As players who aren't having fun, they stop playing. The big caveat to this is to make sure that you as GM are still having fun too. If you and your players are struggling to agree on what's fun, it's time for a big chat. Assuming our group are all on the same page, then they will be motivated to make things happen in the world. Part 2 of our blueprint is to figure out what will happen if the characters do nothing. Now, this might feel a bit odd after discussing how we're going to motivate our players, but what happens if somehow everything goes right for the baddies? There's a really cool concept in Dungeon World called fronts. Think of them like weather fronts that are constantly in motion, progressing in some way with or without the characters intervening. In Dungeon World, each potential faction or force of nature has an impulse, grimportance, and the doom of what will happen if the thing gets what it wants. For example, to sow chaos for their otherworldly patron, impulse. The Warlock will unleash waves of madness through the city, first affecting people already thought of as insane. That's the grimportant, before ramping up to affect the whole population. That's the doom. Thank you, Scarecrow in Batman, for that. If the characters don't intervene, it will happen, and the world will be worse for it. This can be applied to any external force in the world, though maybe with a bit of a change of language, as a front might not always be a bad thing. Springtime will come, impulse, first through melting of snow, a lovely portent, then life will return to Narnia, now that the White Witch's power is weakened. This is whatever the opposite of doom is. They mean that the world has a bit of solidity to it, and isn't reliant on the players following a certain path. A word of caution when using these, they are a ton of fun to create, but they're useless unless they're going to cross the character's path. This is a world building trap I've found myself in a few times. I've got a video here on how to start, and more importantly, how to stop world building. We've now laid out all of the pieces on the character side and in the world where the characters find themselves. The next part is all important, as it will make or break whether your campaign survives more than one session and your group actually gets to tell the story. We get to set everything in motion at last. Part 3 of the blueprint is giving characters and the world room to evolve. Something that TTRPGs do that no computer game, even Baldur's Gate 3, can equal is showing that characters' actions have consequences. Letting their actions come back to haunt them a week, a month, a year down the line is a particularly delicious treat for a GM. This doesn't always have to be negative. Note down the acts of kindness, as well as their murder hobo shenanigans. Also, keep a note of the plot hooks that your players didn't bite at, as these might be fronts from part 2 of our blueprint, as those can keep on moving. It's good to give clues that the fronts are progressing before letting them crash down later in the campaign. If you have a big bad, their plans should change because of the player characters. Just as the characters can evolve, so too should the baddies. It's very tempting to think up an epic final showdown before you've rolled a single dice in a campaign. But while there are loads of ways of wasting your time in prepping for a campaign, this one might be the most insidious. In order for it to happen exactly as you plan, the characters would have to remain constant, and the big bad would have to remain constant too. To make this showdown happen, you'd have to put down so many rails and guidelines in order to get the characters to that destination. Yeah, that's right, you've just made yourself a railroad. Remember, you're not just telling one story, you're actually telling lots of different stories, one for each of your players. The story isn't actually about your big baddie. We're telling the story of how each of the characters individually and as a team achieve their goals, or fail spectacularly. There are loads of storytelling devices which you can map onto your characters' adventures. You might find yourself running any or all of the 7 basic plots, or looking at many faces of the hero with 1,000 faces. You might find that rising and falling action for one character happens on a completely different schedule from another. If this feels like a lot to handle, take a breath and realise that you don't have to plan anything more than this. What does each character want? Why isn't it easy? And what has to change, either within them or out in the world, in order to make it happen? While a player should always have control over their character and how they feel and act, as Game Master, session by session, you can set up changes in the world that set them towards or push them away from their goals. Keep doing that and you'll have a campaign you and your players will be telling stories about for years. For more ways to up your game as Game Master, I've got a playlist just for you. I'll see you there or at a table near you, rolling an improbable succession of ones. Cheers!